The ship was not supposed to crash. The Vossari Dawn was one of the safest diplomatic shuttles in the galaxy. It had shields, backup engines, and 24 high-ranking passengers from different planets. But all of that meant nothing when a solar storm hit them just as they passed near Gleesix, a frozen, lifeless world with nothing but ice and rock. Inside the wrecked shuttle, Max Teller groaned and rubbed his forehead. The lights flickered above him. Sparks danced in the air, and the metal floor was freezing against his hands. "System offline," the ship's AI said with a sad beep. Max sat up slowly. He was a technician from Earth, not a soldier, not a diplomat. Just a man who fixed broken machines. He had been sent with the diplomatic crew to handle repairs and tech issues. No one had expected him to do anything heroic. Now he was lying in a half-frozen corridor with smoke in the air and a broken heater nearby. "Great. Hello," Max called out. "Anyone alive?" There was a loud clang. A huge shadow moved toward him. It was Soria Tavath, a tall, green-scaled warrior from the planet Drothar. Her eyes were sharp, and her arms were thick with muscle. She wore heavy armor that looked like it could punch through steel. "You, human, you are not dead." "Good." Her voice was deep and strong. Max gave a weak smile. "Thanks, I think. We must move. This ship is done. Storm disabled everything." Max stood up, wobbling a little. "We're on Gleesix, right? That's a frozen planet." "Yes," Soria said, walking ahead without waiting. "Colder than any known homeworld. No life. Only death by ice." Max followed her, teeth already chattering. His clothes were standard Earth gear, not made for this kind of cold. "Do we have a shelter?" Soria nodded. "One emergency pod. Few walls. One heater. We found it already. But it is weak. You will help fix it." Max let out a long breath. "That's my job." 15 minutes later, Max was inside a small metal pod built into the ground. It was round, had thick walls, and was just big enough for the surviving group. 6 aliens and 1 human. Everyone looked cold, even the ones with fur and thick skin. The heater in the corner buzzed but gave off almost no warmth. "This is the heater?" Max asked. "It is dying," said a bird-like alien with silver feathers, "just like we will soon." Max crouched beside it and opened the panel. Wires were frozen stiff, and one power line had snapped. He pulled out his toolkit and began to work. As he connected a bypass wire, he muttered, "You know, on Earth we fix things like this with duct tape and hope." The heater sputtered, then glowed a little brighter. The air became warmer by a few degrees. The group gave a collective sigh. "You have done well, Max Teller," said a 3-eyed diplomat from the planet Ivan. Max smiled. "Thanks, but this is a short fix. It won't last long. The battery is draining fast." "How long do we have?" asked Soria. "Maybe 20 hours, Max said. "Then it's back to freezing." There was a long silence. Then one alien asked, "Will rescue arrive before then?" Max shook his head. "Not likely. The storm jammed communications. We can't even send a signal." Another silence, this time longer. Suddenly, Soria stood up. She looked around the pod and pointed at a thick blanket. "Then we must share body heat." Max blinked. "Wait, what?" "Body heat. Drothari sleep in groups in winter caves. We pile close. You humans are warm-blooded. Useful. You sleep with us." Max stared. "You want me to sleep with you?" Soria crossed her arms. "Not for pleasure. For survival." "Still sounds weird." "Shut up, human," she said, stepping closer, her scales glowing slightly from internal heat. "We're freezing. Get in my bed now." Max's face turned red. "I didn't even know we had beds." Soria pointed to a corner where some mats were laid on the floor. "That is the bed. Floor bed. We use it together." Max rubbed his eyes. Right. Of course. Group floor bed. Why not? Later that night, Max found himself squished between Soria and the bird-like alien, who kept fluffing his feathers every few minutes. The air was thick with awkward silence. Soria grunted softly. You humans are soft, but you are useful. You fix things. You make heat. You are odd. Thanks, Max said. I guess. You are different from your files, she continued. Files say humans are weak, nervous, talk too much. Not wrong, Max admitted. But you stay calm. You fix things. That is strong, even if you talk too much. Max smirked, even though he was still freezing. This may be the weirdest night of my life. Same for me, Soria said. But if we live, you will tell Earth that Soria Tavath kept you alive. Max yawned. Sure, I'll give you a medal. Good. Sleep now, warm one. Max chuckled quietly as his eyes closed. Outside, the cold wind howled across the ice, but inside the little pod, 7 beings from 7 worlds huddled together, sharing warmth, fear, and hope. And in the center, a tired human technician began to dream of home, where heaters worked, beds were soft, and no one yelled at him to get inside them. Not yet, anyway. The cold was getting worse. Max Teller woke up feeling numb. His fingers were stiff, and his breath came out in small clouds. The heater in the shelter was still sputtering, but barely. Outside, the wind howled like angry beasts chasing after them. Max looked around. The others were stirring too. Soria Tavath sat up, rubbing her scaled arms. Her eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the room. Human, she said, fixing Max with a hard stare. We cannot survive like this. You must do more than fix machines. You must understand. Max blinked. Understand what? Cold is enemy. It is not enough to fight it alone. We must fight it together. Max sighed. You mean, share heat? Like last night? Yes, it is law for Drothari. When cold comes, we share beds. Not just to sleep. To live. Max swallowed. It's not easy for me. I'm not used to sharing beds. Soria's voice softened just a little. Neither am I, but we have no choice. The other aliens nodded in agreement. The silver-feathered one, called Zinara, fluttered her wings slightly. On my world, we use heat crystals, but none survive here. We must trust the human ways. The 3-eyed Ivan diplomat, Kefal, adjusted his robes. We must work together or perish separately. Max looked down at his freezing hands. He wanted to say no, to keep his distance. But the truth was clear. If they did not find a way to stay warm, they would not live to see rescue. He nodded slowly. Okay, we'll do it. That morning, Max helped repair the heater again. The power cells were nearly dead, but Max used every trick he knew to make the machine last longer. It gave them a few more hours of heat. Afterward, Soria called everyone together. Her voice was firm but calm. We will rest now, but not like last night. We need to be better prepared. We take shifts. When one sleeps, others stay awake. We keep watch. We share heat in turns. Max raised an eyebrow. Taking turns. How does that work? Groups of 2 or 3. You sleep with me first, she said, pointing at herself, then with others. We rotate so no one freezes. Max smiled awkwardly. Guess I'm popular. Only because you are warm, she said bluntly. The day passed slowly. Max and Soria worked side by side, repairing parts of the shelter, sharing stories about their worlds. Soria told him about Drothar, a planet where the winters lasted for years, and only the strongest survived. Max shared tales of Earth's seasons, the warmth of the sun, and the small comforts of a hot drink. Despite the cold, they laughed a little. It was strange, this friendship between a human and a fierce alien warrior. That evening, when the time came for the first sleep shift, Max felt nervous. He was still not used to the idea of sharing a bed with others. Soria gave him a sharp look. No time for nonsense. You get in bed. Now. Max obeyed. He climbed under the thin blankets, curling up next to Soria. Her skin was surprisingly warm and steady. Slowly, the cold began to fade. For a moment, the silence was peaceful. Then Max whispered, "Why do you sound so angry all the time?" Soria shrugged. "I am not angry. I am serious. But you have to relax sometimes. I bet you smile." Her eyes softened. "Maybe. When I am not freezing." Max chuckled quietly. "I'm glad you're here. I'd be dead otherwise." Soria's voice dropped to a low rumble. "Humans are strange. Weak, yes, but stubborn. That makes them dangerous." Max smiled in the dark. "I'll take that as a compliment." Suddenly, a loud noise broke the quiet. A sharp bang came from outside the shelter. Everyone woke up, alert and tense. The small pod shook slightly. Max jumped up. What was that? Zenara looked out through a frost-covered window. "Something is moving in the storm." Soria grabbed her weapon. "Stay calm. We do not know what it is, but we will find out." Max's heart pounded. This planet was deadly enough without unknown dangers outside. They prepared to leave the shelter. Soria led the group carefully through the swirling snow. Max shivered in his heavy jacket, clutching a small handheld scanner. The cold made his fingers clumsy, but he focused. Suddenly, the scanner beeped loudly. Something was approaching. Max and Soria stopped. The group crouched behind a large ice rock. The scanner showed a strange shape moving in the white storm. It was metallic and fast. "A drone," Max whispered, "or some kind of probe." Soria nodded. "It hunts energy. Our heater must have called it here." Max's mind raced. If the drone found them, they would have little chance to fight it in the cold. Soria made a decision. "We cannot let it reach us. We must distract it." Max looked at her, surprised. "How?" Soria pointed to some spare power cells and a reflective panel nearby. "You make decoy. Draw it away." Max smiled. "Leave that to me." Using the last bits of power, Max set up the decoy. He connected the cells to a small light source and hid behind the rocks with Soria. The drone approached, its sensors glowing red. It moved toward the light, away from the shelter. Max's heart raced as he held his breath. The drone's metal legs tapped against the ice. It moved closer to the trap. Then Max triggered the reflective panel, blinding the drone's sensors. Soria leaped forward and smashed the drone with her heavy fist. It crashed into the ice, sparks flying. The group cheered quietly. Back in the shelter, Max was surprised to see smiles all around. Even Soria looked pleased. "You are more than a warm body, human," she said with a rare grin. "You are clever. You are strong." Max laughed. "I'm just lucky, I guess." "No, you are something new. You are human." That night, as they huddled together again, Max felt different. The cold was still outside, but inside the small pod, a new warmth had grown, a warmth of trust, friendship, and hope. He looked at Soria, who was watching him quietly. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we will need more than tricks. We will need courage." Max nodded. "Then let's be brave." The storm outside was relentless. Max Teller sat huddled inside the shelter, rubbing his hands together to keep warm. The heater still sputtered, but the power cells were almost empty. Every minute counted. Soria sat nearby, sharpening her blade with steady, precise movements. She was quiet, lost in thought. Max's mind raced too. Something wasn't right. Earlier, the handheld scanner beeped again. This time, it showed something moving in strange patterns, too organized to be a wild animal, too silent to be a creature. Max frowned. "Soria, I don't think that drone was alone." Soria looked up. "What do you mean?" There's a pattern. The movement outside is too regular. Something is out there, hunting us. Soria's eyes narrowed. A predator. On a frozen, empty world. Maybe not alive, Max said. More like a machine. Maybe a hive of probes working together. The others listened closely. Even the silver-feathered Zenera seemed worried. Max grabbed the scanner and pulled up the recent readings. Look at this. He pointed to the screen. Tiny blips moved in lines, scanning the area around their shelter. Soria's face hardened. Then we have to act. If these probes find us again, we won't survive. Max nodded. We need a plan to stop them. For hours, the group worked together, pooling their knowledge. Max tinkered with broken parts from the ship's wreckage. Soria and the others guarded the entrance. Max's mind was focused on one idea: trick the probes. He found some power cells and spare parts. Using the reflective panel from before, he thought he could create a decoy, a fake heat source to draw the probes away. Zenara, Max said, can you help me set this up outside the shelter? Zenara nodded. I can fly above the ice and guide you. Together, they went outside. The wind bit at Max's face, but he kept moving. They set up the power cells on a sled and covered them with the reflective tarp. Max connected wires, making sure the decoy would emit a strong heat signature. Back inside, Soria kept watch. She stood near the entrance, her weapon ready. Max, she said over the radio, be careful. These probes are dangerous. I know, Max replied, but this might be our best chance. Minutes later, the decoy began to glow warmly. The heat source was strong, and the probe's sensors lit up on the scanner. They're coming, Max said. Soria and the others prepared for battle. The probes arrived, moving swiftly across the ice. Their metal legs clicked and clattered, their red sensors scanning for energy. Max and Zenara hid behind a rock, watching the decoy attract the probes. Suddenly, one probe stopped near the decoy, shining a bright light on it. Max held his breath. Then the probe began to scan the decoy's heat source, signaling the others to follow. Soria charged from the shelter, shouting a battle cry. She swung her blade, cutting through the nearest probe's legs. The machine collapsed with a heavy clang. The other probes turned, sensing danger. Max pulled out a small device he had made, a pulse emitter designed to scramble their sensors. He pressed the button. A wave of interference blasted out, and the probes faltered. Some stumbled. Others lost coordination. Soria and the others fought bravely. Zenera used her wings to create gusts of wind, knocking the probes off balance. Max moved quickly, disabling a probe with a makeshift EMP grenade. The fight was fierce but short. One by one, the probes stopped moving, their lights dimming. After the battle, the group returned to the shelter, exhausted but alive. Max wiped sweat from his brow. That was too close. Soria nodded. Your plan worked. You are clever. Max smiled. Thanks. But this planet is still dangerous. Zenera looked worried. These probes might come back with more. Kefal added, we need a better defense. That night, as the group gathered, Max looked around at the tired faces. We can't just hide, he said. We have to find out who sent these probes. Soria agreed. And why? This world may hold secrets. Max felt a new determination growing inside him. We survive by fighting smart. Together. As the cold wind howled outside, the small group of survivors prepared for whatever came next. Max Teller was no longer just a technician. He was a leader, a symbol of humanity's stubborn will to survive against all odds. And the cold, mechanical hunters on Gliese AX were about to learn just how dangerous humans could be. The cold on Gliese AX was a quiet enemy, but something else was stirring. Something worse. Max Teller stood near the entrance of the shelter, the small handheld scanner in his hands. The screen blinked with faint signals. Something was coming. Soria Tavath appeared beside him. eyes sharp as ever. You feel it? Max nodded. Yes, the probes might be back, but this time, something different. The group gathered quickly inside the shelter. Everyone was tense. Kefal, the three-eyed diplomat, adjusted his robes nervously. What is different? Max looked at them all. I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it won't be friendly. Suddenly, the shelter shuddered with a loud crash. Metal bent and sparks flew. Enemies, Soria shouted, drawing her blade. A strange machine burst through the weakened wall. A hybrid drone, larger and more dangerous than before. Its body was a mix of sharp metal plates and glowing circuits. Its eyes flickered with a strange light. The drone spoke in broken words, its voice harsh and robotic. Surrender. Submit. Resistance will be destroyed. Max's heart raced. He grabbed a nearby metal rod. The others readied their weapons. The silver-feathered Zinera spread her wings wide, preparing to defend. The drone moved fast. It attacked without warning, swinging a heavy arm at Soria. She dodged and struck back with her blade. Sparks flew as metal clashed against scales. Max saw an opening. He threw the metal rod straight at the drone's sensor eye. The rod hit true. The drone's vision flickered and went dark for a moment. Soria roared and struck again, shattering the drone's arm. The battle was fierce. The drone fought hard, but the group worked together. Max found a loose panel on the drone's side and ripped it open. Inside were wires and glowing circuits. He yanked out a power cable. The drone's movements slowed. Soria landed a heavy blow on its head. With a final spark, the drone collapsed to the floor, silent. The group stood panting, staring at the fallen machine. That was too close, Max said. Soria nodded. These machines are made for war. We must be ready. Zinera looked at Max with new respect. Your quick thinking saved us. Max smiled weakly. Just lucky. After the fight, the group repaired the shelter as best they could. Max worked on strengthening the walls while Soria and the others kept watch. We can't stay here much longer, Max said quietly. We need to find shelter that is safe. And fast. That night, Max and Soria sat close to the weak heater. Soria looked at Max thoughtfully. You are not like the others. You are unpredictable. Max chuckled. That's the nicest thing you've said to me. She smiled slightly. You are strong in ways they don't understand. That is why you survive. Max felt a warmth inside, not just from the heater. Outside, the wind howled, but inside the shelter, hope grew. Max knew the real fight was only beginning. And no matter what came next, he was ready. The cold was not the only secret Gliese Aix was hiding. After their narrow escape from the drone, Max Teller and the group knew they couldn't stay in the broken shelter much longer. The storm outside still raged, but Max believed there was something else nearby, something they needed to find. Maps from the ship showed a buried installation, Max said, spreading out a worn holographic map on the table. It was some kind of research base. If it still works, maybe we can find shelter there. Soria Tavath stared at the map. A place to hide. Or a trap. We won't know until we try, Max replied. The group gathered their gear, ready to move despite the biting cold. Outside, the frozen landscape stretched endlessly, white and silent. The wind whipped at their faces as they trudged through the snow. Max carried the scanner, watching for any sign of danger. The others followed close, weapons ready. After hours, the group reached a ridge. Below, half buried in ice, was the entrance to the installation. Max's eyes lit up. There it is. The entrance was sealed by thick metal doors, frozen shut by ice and snow. Soria stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly. Let me try. Using her Dratheri heat powers, she warmed the lock until the ice melted. With a heavy groan, the doors slowly opened. Inside was dark and cold, but better than outside. The air smelled of old machines and metal. Max led the way, flashlight cutting through the shadows. The walls were lined with strange panels, flickering lights, and cables hanging like vines. "Looks like a lab," Max whispered. Zinera fluttered close. This place was for studying heat and cold. "War machines, maybe." Cathal studied the symbols on the walls. "Ancient language. Few understand." As they moved deeper, Max found a control room. The consoles blinked to life when he touched them. "Power still here," Max said. "If we can restart the systems, we might get warmth. And maybe a way to call for help." Soria stood guard as Max worked. The room hummed with energy. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Warning. Unauthorized access detected," the cold voice announced. Max froze. "We triggered something." Soria drew her blade. "Prepare for attack." From the shadows, automated defenses began to activate. Turret guns and energy barriers blocking the corridors. Max rushed to the console. "I need to disable the security system." He typed quickly, fingers trembling from cold and fear. The others fought off the turrets, dodging blasts and sparks. Max's eyes scanned the code. Almost there. With a final keystroke, the alarm stopped. The turrets powered down. Soria lowered her weapon. "You saved us again, human." Max smiled tiredly. "We're not out yet. Let's explore." In a back room, they found cryo chambers, empty but still intact. Max inspected the controls. "This tech could keep us alive if we need it." Zinera examined data pads scattered nearby. These logs show experiments to help soldiers survive extreme cold. Cathal frowned. But the research was stopped. Something went wrong. Max pieced the story together. "This base was abandoned long ago after dangerous experiments," he said. "But the tech still works. We can use it." Soria looked serious. "We rest here. We recover." That night, the group settled into the warmth of the installation. Max lay awake, thinking about what they had found. This place was a reminder. Survival required more than strength. It needed knowledge, courage, and trust. And together, they had all three. Inside the ancient installation, the air was warmer, but the danger was far from over. Max Teller sat by a softly glowing panel, feeling the heat seep into his frozen fingers. Around him, the others prepared for the worst. The power supply in the base was limited. If it failed, they would be left in the cold again, worse than before. Soria Tivath stood nearby, eyes scanning the dark corridors beyond. "We cannot wait for rescue. We must make a plan." Max nodded. "The drones and probes will keep coming. They are attracted to our heat and energy." Cathal stepped forward. "We need to find a way to stop them for good." Max studied the control console. This installation was made to test heat defense weapons. "Maybe we can use that against the swarm." Soria's eyes brightened. "We can lure the drones to the iced chasm outside. The deep crevice can be a trap." Max smiled. "And I have just the idea to draw them there." The group gathered what power cells and supplies they could carry. Max and Soria worked quickly, setting up a series of heat generators connected by cables leading toward the crevice. "We'll use these as bait," Max explained. "The drones will follow the heat trail." Soria checked her weapon. "Then we detonate the installation's power core remotely, collapsing the ice and destroying the drones." The plan was risky. If they failed, the drones would overwhelm them, or the explosion might trap them in the crevice. As night fell outside, the group moved out. The wind howled like a beast hunting its prey. Max and Soria led the way, dragging the heat generators behind them. The drones appeared on the scanner, moving fast and precise. "They're coming," Max whispered. They reached the edge of the crevice. It yawned wide and dark, cutting through the ice like a giant scar. Max placed the last generator near the edge. Soria stood guard, weapon ready. Max activated the heat trail. The drones arrived swiftly, drawn by the warmth. They marched toward the generators, their red sensors glowing in the dark. Suddenly, Max pressed the remote detonator. A powerful blast shook the ground. Ice cracked and shattered. The crevice widened, swallowing the drones as they fell into the abyss. But the explosion sent a shockwave back toward Max and Soria. The cold air rushed in. Max stumbled, nearly falling. Soria caught him quickly. "Hold on." They scrambled back from the edge as the ice shifted beneath them. Breathless, Max looked at Soria. "We did it, but barely." Soria smiled, her eyes shining. "You were brave, human. You kept us alive." Max shook his head, smiling despite the cold. "I couldn't have done it without you." Back at the installation, the group rested. The heater hummed stronger now, powered by the reactivated systems. Max leaned back, finally feeling warmth without fear. Soria sat beside him. "You are no longer just the human I ordered around." Max laughed softly. "Good, because I wasn't a fan of being yelled at." They shared a quiet moment. Outside, the storm began to calm. The long fight against the cold and the drones had taken its toll. But Max and the others had survived, and humanity had once again proven its strength, not just in body, but in courage and heart. The storm was finally ending. The icy winds of Gliese had slowed to a soft whisper, and the sky above began to clear. Max Teller stood at the entrance of the ancient installation, staring out at the snowy plains. After days of struggle, the cold seemed less fierce, almost defeated. Behind him, the others were busy preparing a signal beacon. It was Max's final task, to send a message to the outside galaxy, hoping rescue ships would find them. "Are you ready?" Soria asked, stepping beside him. Her green scales glistened faintly in the weak sunlight. For the first time, Max noticed something softer in her eyes, a mix of respect and something like pride. Max nodded. "Ready as I'll ever be." She smiled, a rare and genuine smile. "You have done more than survive, human. You have led us." Max rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "I just fixed heaters and tried not to freeze." Soria laughed quietly. "That is enough." Inside the installation, the group worked together. Zanera fluttered around, arranging equipment. Kethal checked the signal's strength. Max connected the final wires to the beacon. The screen blinked, showing a steady green light. "Message sent," Max said, relief washing over him. "Now we wait." As hours passed, the group gathered around the heater, sharing stories and quiet laughter. They were tired but alive. They had fought the cold, outsmarted the deadly drones, and survived the secrets of the frozen planet. Soria looked at Max thoughtfully. "There is a saying among Drothari. The fire of the weak can warm the coldest night. You are that fire." Max smiled warmly. "Thanks. I think I'll remember that." Suddenly, a sharp sound broke the calm. Max looked outside and saw bright lights cutting through the twilight sky. "Rescue ships," Zanara cried. "They found us." The group rushed outside as a sleek shuttle landed on the frozen ground. The rescue team moved quickly, helping the survivors onto the ship. Max and Soria stood side by side. One of the rescuers looked at Max in surprise. "You're the human who led this group." Max shrugged. "I did what I had to." Soria stepped forward. "He is more than that. He is my bonded thermal ally." Max blinked. "Bonded what?" Soria grinned. "It means I trust him with my life, with my warmth." Max laughed, shaking his head. "I'll take that as a compliment." As the shuttle lifted off, Max looked back at the icy planet. He thought about the frozen nights, the battles, the strange but strong friends he had made. Humans were called fragile and talkative. But here, on Gliese, Max had shown something different. Stubbornness, courage, heart. Later, aboard the rescue ship, the crew gathered to hear Max's story. Diplomats, soldiers, scientists, all amazed by the human who survived where many others would not. One official said, "Humans may be small, but their spirit is giant." Max smiled quietly. He didn't feel like a hero, just a man who kept warm by sharing a bed. But maybe that was enough. Before the ship left orbit, Soria leaned close. "Next time, human," she said with a teasing tone, "don't be so slow to get in my bed." Max laughed. "I'll remember. For survival, right?" She smiled. "For survival. And maybe something more." As stars stretched before them, Max Teller looked forward, ready for the next adventure. Because humans were not just survivors. They were legends in the making.